There's my boy Virgil. He wants to ask y'all to do something.
Press the subscribe button in the notifications bell right below this video.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Please subscribe, like, and share. Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. And if you don't mind, please subscribe, like, and share. Now, today I want to talk about driving in the Philippines. Is that something you really want to do? Now, if you just arrived here and you're thinking about wanting to drive, I don't really recommend it. You need to spend some time with public transportation to get an idea of how traffic really is, especially in the cities, especially the larger cities, like Cebu, Manila, Davao, Colog, Dumaguete, that's on Negros Island. You really need to get adjusted to the way traffic behavior is. Now, if you're living out away from the city, I still wouldn't recommend it immediately once you're here, because you still got public transportation, even in small towns, because you do need to get adapted to your surrounding area and the way traffic habit is. Now, traffic here is not like most countries. It's a little bit on the, know how to explain it. Yeah, they got rules, but they don't. That's pretty well sums it up. Most rules are not enforced. That's the problem. Now, I made myself some notes if you want to know what I'm doing. Intersections. Very few places. Now, some of the cities have upgraded and they've actually put traffic lights in. But that's something you won't see away from the big city is traffic lights common in a small town. When you come to an intersection, it's who's the bravest. I know that sounds strange, but really, I'm not seeing any stop signs. Occasionally you might see one, but usually you're in a position where you never notice it. That's kind of strange. I've been here a long time, and I'm still gun shy, leery about driving. I did find out something when my wife got her driver's license. Overtake and passing, that's two different things. When I first heard the terminology or seen it on the roadside signs, I just assumed they were talking about passing. I thought it's the same thing. But it's not. Overtake is when you pass on the left side, what we're accustomed to for the left-hand drive vehicles. Passing is for the right side. And that's kind of a strange thing. Now, what worries me most on that is you're in an intersection, or getting ready to come up an intersection, and you're getting ready to make a right-hand turn. You got your turn signal on, and you're watching your mirrors and everything, and you're getting ready to make that turn, and all of a sudden you got a motorcycle come up on your right side passing you. Yep, that happens. They will pass you in an intersection. And it's happened to me a number of times, and also getting ready to turn off somewhere to a business. You have your turn signal on, you're doing all the proper things, and Lord and behold, here comes something up beside you on the right side. So you have to be 100% aware at all times. And driving, it gets tiresome. I mean, you have to stay so alert. You can't have a conversation while driving because you have to totally focus, and that's that's disturbing. My eyesight's not very good. Passengers is something you'll see strange. Most developed countries doesn't allow passengers in the back of like pickups and so forth. But here, you see a pickup go by, and it'd be fully loaded in the back with people. A GP, you'll see them hanging off the sides and out the rear. Dump trucks, you'll see people in them. Yeah, that's a common thing. One of my favorites. Now, when I was in the States, I'm from the U.S., my horn was rarely used. I mean, it was rare. Here, it's a tool to drive. And what I mean by that, you be driving along, and if you see a motor sitting getting ready to get on the highway or whatever, you better blow your horn. Because he's going to pull out in front of you. He ain't looking at you. He don't care. Or it could be a person getting ready to walk across the highway or whatever. You better blow your horn. Get their attention. Now, if living in the city, even if I had a vehicle, I probably wouldn't drive it very much. Probably still use public transportation. Unless you're going to a mall, even of those, you're going to have limited parking. That's why. That's one of the biggest issues about living in the city. If you want to visit a business or whatever, in most cases, parking it's not there. So you're better off taking public transportation. If I lived in the city, my personal transportation would be when I was planning a day trip away from the city or so forth, because of the parking. It's odd that very few businesses have the option of parking. If you're from a developed country, in most cases you find that strange. I don't know how true it is about other countries. I'm from the U.S. and I'm accustomed to businesses having parking and so forth. So, in comparison to my home country, that's an issue. Parking. And another thing too, if you do get lucky enough to find a parking place, it's not uncommon to get blocked in. Even here in a small town, I'll be sitting and waiting on my wife while she's doing shopping or whatever, or maybe going in and doing some bank business, whatever. It's not uncommon for a motor to pull up right up against you, park, motorcycle, right in the front, and one pull behind you, and there's no way for you to back up or forward. You just have to sit there and wait till they come back to their motors. Or, in some cases, if you're lucky, there's a guard at the business, whatever, and they'll actually will move one of the motors so you can get out. Yeah, I find that very disturbing. I mean, and the strange part about it, in most cases when that happens, there's probably plenty of options for them to park far enough away where you can maneuver. But no, they'll pull right up where they got you wedged in. And another thing too, sidewalks, in most cases, is where motorcycle parks. Or cars. I've seen that too. And it forces you to walk out in the street. I think it's funny now after I've been here so long. And you'll find, this is unusual, we got a accustomed to it in the States years ago. And it's kind of brings you back in time in a way. But I've not had any self-service gasoline, where you pull up to the pump, you get out, you pump your own gas. Here, there's always someone pumping your gas. Back when I was young, that was a common thing. But they was phased out and self-serve became popular. That's something you'll find different here. Now, if you decide you're going to drive here, there's something you're going to experience. You will have a flat. And it will happen. When I lived in the U.S., I couldn't tell you the last time I had a flat. But here, I've had my fair share. I just had one recently. Now, the issue with that is most places that repair a flat are not equipped to repair tubeless tires. So if you're out away from the city and you have a flat and you have to have that tire repaired, the odds are, if it's a tubeless tire, the only way you're going to get back on the road is put a tube in it. Depending on where you're at. Now, I keep personally the liquid tar sealant that you put in a deflated tire, and it works great on the smaller punctures. Now, if you was to have a large puncture, you're going to have to replace the tire anyway. But on small punctures like a nail or something like that, it works great. It's fantastic. I always keep a couple bottles of that on hand. And a small 12-volt air compressor. And that's saved me on a number of occasions. It actually saved me on my last flat. So that's something to keep in mind too. Now, you decide you want to drive. There are obstacles you got to watch for. And people walking is another thing. They will walk in the highway on you. And that don't sound too bad, does it? But when there's a group walking, they don't know how to stay off the highway. They will actually line up and be walking side by side and take up the road. And you think they'll move? In most cases, no. And if they do split up, guess what? They split up on both sides of the road. And if you're on a narrow road, then you still can't get through it. That happens to me all the time. So keep that in mind if you plan on driving. This is some of the things you want to issue. Now, there's other things too. Now, this is more important, especially if you're riding a motorcycle. It's animals. Now, stray dogs, they're all over the Philippines. No matter where you go, and it's very hard to avoid those. Now, I've been very lucky, and I rode a motorcycle up to just a couple of years ago. They got to the point my back wouldn't let me. But the dogs and small animals, ducks, chickens, whatever, those things are the goats. Don't forget about the goats. Those things are something you're going to see. And also, occasionally there'd be caribou crossing the road on you. You have no choice but to stop there. If you're driving a four-wheel vehicle, even you don't really want to hit an animal. I do my best. So far, I've been very lucky. I've not hit a dog or any animal. But that's something you need to be aware of. And also, when you're driving, especially on a sunny day, if it's a shade, there's going to be a group of people there. And you got to watch, especially if you're away from the city and the roads are curvy. If there's a shade in the curve, they be there. You got to be careful. They have motorcycles parked everywhere, or vehicles, and usually it's on your side, and you have to avoid them by going into oncoming traffic. And if you're in an elbow curve, that's kind of scary. So, now, small towns is more common as those pedal cabs. I understand that the pedal cab drivers, they need to make a little money to daily to go to buy food and so forth. But God, I wish they would train them to some kind of understand traffic. But they have no mind when it comes to traffic. There's nothing worse being a small town and you got 3 pedal cabs wide and they got you at walking speed. And they're real bad to just dart out in front of you. You got to be very careful around these pedal cab drivers because they just don't think, period. They think they are the masters of the road, and it's something to be around. They are terrible. And like I said, I understand they need some sort of income, and that's how they make their money. But they are very disturbing. Now, you've been living here and you decide you really want to drive and you're going to buy you some transportation. Or you're going to buy new, used, or in my case, surplus. New is great if you're close to a dealership. Because if you buy new, it's my understanding that if you don't have it as regular maintenance done at the dealership, it can void your warranty. The next thing too, you got to remember, towing. There's no tow trucks here. And if you got a new vehicle under warranty, and it has a running issue that you cannot drive it to the dealership, it's going to be difficult getting it there. It's not impossible. It depends where you live. It's going to be difficult. I got lucky in my little surplus vehicle. I had an issue with it, and I actually bought it in Cebu, and I live in Negros. And they actually had a vehicle that they could put that on and take it back to their shop. And that's how it got there. They winched it up on it wasn't actually a rollback. They had ramps, and the clearance on it was inches. But they got it loaded and secured it, and they took it back to the shop. That's when I actually had a turbo issue, and they fixed it under warranty. What do you think about that? I actually got warranty work. But if you don't live near a dealership, this could be difficult, really. And also with a new vehicle, you actually, to me, in my opinion, the way I would feel if I had brand new, I've become a target. You're wealthy. Now, buying used. I wouldn't recommend buying used from a Filipino, because they don't know anything about maintenance in most cases. Or if they're, in most cases, they can't afford maintenance. So, that's the biggest issue about buying used. Now, if you happen to get lucky enough and there's an expat getting ready to go back to their home country or getting ready to buy another vehicle, you might be pretty good shape to buy used from one of those. Used prices here are pretty expensive, especially if a vehicle is worth buying. That was one of my shock treatments when I first come here, was the price of used vehicles. And I was looking at these surplus vehicles at the time, and I was amazed at how expensive they were in comparison to when I left. my home country. Now the last option is surplus. The reason I buy surplus, to be honest with you, is parts availability and the cost of the parts. In most cases, those parts are very, very affordable. Example, I replaced the two front struts with springs and stabilizers for 6,500 pesos. That included shipping from Cebu here. And I paid, I think it was 500 pesos labor to have them installed. And so it's 7,000 pesos. Roughly, what, $140 maybe, something like that, 150. So that was cheap. This is for brand new and its original parts. And that's another reason I buy the surplus. I can actually, if it needs something, I can, in most cases, get it very affordable. And also, there are used parts available for it, too. For parts that are not available new, you can find it in surplus parts. So, that's another thing, too, that you might want to consider. Depends on your situation and financial situation, too. I don't like payments. That's another reason I wouldn't want new. Because I can't afford to just run out and pay cash for them. And that's some options, something you want to consider. Now, as far as motorcycles go, personally I would buy new, because there's new dealerships all over the Philippines. So warranty issues is not there. It's not a problem. I've owned several new motorbikes, and I've enjoyed them. The biggest issue is safety. If you're not a had a lot of experience on a motorcycle, I wouldn't recommend it, because it's very dangerous. Another issue I didn't bring up is driving at night. Personally, I don't drive at night unless I'm forced into it. The reason for that is just unsafe. There's too many vehicles that will run around with no headlights or tail lights, and people walking with dark clothing, and it's just totally unsafe. And plus, the ones that do have lights, they don't know how to dim the lights. Even if you put your lights on bright, they still don't know how to dim them. You can't get their attention, they still blind you. And my night vision is just terrible. Now, if you've got good night vision, you might get by on it. Personally, I don't drive at night. But that's some of the things that make you aware of. But anyway, folks, that's my driver's education class. And like I said, I've been there long enough that I'm still not used to it. I've been here almost 13 years, and I still just driving here is a different. It's different. Period. But hopefully this will help some of y'all. Or if you're thinking about driving and so forth, maybe you'll put it off for a little while, and maybe it'll help you make a little better decision, make you more aware, make you safe. I don't want anybody to get injured or have problems out here. So everybody take care, and if you watch my videos this long, keep in mind, I need the subscribers, so please subscribe, like, and share.